Picture this. You're a pirate in the Indian Ocean, and you've just spotted your golden ticket. It's a massive, slow-moving ship on the horizon. To your crew, it looks like a commercial tanker, an easy payday, loaded with valuable cargo. Armed with AK-47s and feeling pretty good after a few successful hijackings, you gun your skiffs forward, ready to claim your prize. But you're about to make a catastrophic mistake, an error in judgment that will trigger an immediate and overwhelming response from a silent giant you mistook for a sheep. This isn't just bad luck. It's a head-on collision with the most powerful naval force on the planet. And the real reason this all went down is much more than a simple case of mistaken identity. To get how a mistake this big could even happen, you have to understand the setting. For years, the waters off the Horn of Africa were the world's most dangerous hunting ground. This was the pirates' kingdom, a massive blue wilderness where international law was a joke and desperation was king. For many Somali fishermen and ex-militiamen, piracy wasn't just a career. It was the only option on the table. Facing a collapsed state and crushing poverty on land, the sea was a lottery ticket. One good hijacking could mean millions in ransom, enough money to change your life and worth almost any risk. Their strategy was simple but brutally effective. They used small, fast skiffs launched from a larger mothership, letting them strike hundreds of miles from shore. They were picky about their targets: slow, clumsy cargo ships, oil tankers, and bulk carriers with low sides, which made them easy to board. Their tools weren't fancy, but they worked. Grappling hooks, ladders, Kalashnikovs, and the occasional RPG to scare crews into giving up. And for a while, this formula was a winner. They were the predators of the sea, and the world's shipping lanes were their buffet. With every ship they captured, their confidence swelled, creating a dangerous feeling that they were untouchable. The target: a fatal miscalculation. This brings us to the morning of March 18, 2006. Off the coast of Somalia, a band of pirates spotted a vessel that seemed perfect. It was huge, its silhouette screaming tanker or merchant ship. From their low-slung skiffs, bobbing on the waves miles away, the details were fuzzy. They saw size and opportunity. What they couldn't see were the sharp, angular lines of a warship, the advanced radar, or the subtle outlines of missile launchers. They weren't looking at one ship. They were looking at two: the Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser USS Cape St. George and the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer USS Gonzales. This was the pirates' first major screw-up, a complete failure of intelligence. Working with little more than binoculars and bravado, they made a visual ID from a distance. They had no idea that a warship, even one just cruising, is a totally different beast. To their untrained eyes, the gray hull of a naval destroyer could easily be mistaken for a civilian freighter. Fueled by overconfidence, this visual mistake sent them speeding toward a target that was way out of their league. They weren't just picking a fight. They were about to attack a floating fortress. They saw a sheep, but they were speeding directly toward a pack of wolves. As the pirates closed in, the vibe on the USS Gonzales and USS Cape St. George was the polar opposite of the chaos on the skiffs. On the bridge of a U.S. Navy warship, things are calm and professional. The thing is, long before the pirates could even see the ships clearly, they were already detected. Advanced radar had painted them as suspicious contacts, their speed and direction flagging them as a potential threat. Onboard surveillance systems were likely listening in on their communications, painting a very clear picture of hostile intent. As the sun came up, the U.S. ships decided to check it out. The USS Gonzales sent out two rigid-hull inflatable boats with boarding teams to make contact, a standard, by-the-book move. But the pirates, seeing the smaller boats, thought it was a sign of weakness. Believing they had the advantage, they started brandishing their RPG launchers, and then they opened fire. Bullets started pinging off the hulls of the American warships. It was an act of incredible boldness, born from total ignorance. The pirates thought they were kicking off a hostile takeover. What they actually did was give a U.S. naval battle group the legal green light to defend itself. On the bridge of the USS Cape St. George, Captain James Yohe was stunned. He later said, "I was simply amazed they were firing at us, to be so bold as to actually continue the engagement. The reveal and the response the second those first shots were fired, the game changed." The reveal didn't come with dramatic music or a flag being unfurled. It was the instant, overwhelming, and brutally efficient application of superior firepower. The warships were too close to use their main 5-inch cannons, but they didn't need them. The boarding teams in the Reebs, now cleared to engage, returned fire. At the same time, the .50 caliber machine guns on the Gonzales and Cape St. George opened up with a roar. The pirates' world fell apart. A tracer round from the USS Gonzales likely tore into a fuel drum on the pirates' main vessel, which erupted into a massive fireball. The boat that served as their mothership was engulfed in flames, quickly burning down to the waterline. The men on board had to dive into the ocean to escape. The two remaining skiffs, now staring down the focused firepower of 2 American warships, immediately lost the will to fight. Their main boat and all their extra fuel were gone. The dream of an easy payday vanished, replaced by the terrifying reality of their mistake. They surrendered to the USS Cape St. George. The whole thing was over in minutes. It wasn't a battle. It was a lesson. With the threat gone, the U.S. Navy's mission changed again. The same sailors who had just unleashed hell were now running a search and rescue operation. The ribs that had been taking fire moved in to pull the surviving pirates from the water. One by one, 12 suspects were brought aboard the very warships they had just attacked, 5 of them wounded. And this is where the other part of the real reason kicks in: intelligence. For the Navy, a captured pirate is a goldmine of information. Their weapons, GPS units, and phones were all confiscated. This gear is a treasure trove. GPS waypoints can reveal pirate bases and popular routes. Radio frequencies and phone contacts can help map out the command structure of larger pirate networks. And the pirates themselves provide priceless human intelligence during debriefings. Every failed attack like this makes the Navy smarter and better equipped to dismantle the whole piracy operation. The pirates went hunting for money. They ended up as a data point in the Navy's war on piracy. The end result for this particular group of pirates was decisive. 1 was confirmed dead, 12 were captured, and their mothership was at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. This crew was eventually sent back to Somalia. But other pirates who made similar mistakes weren't so lucky. In a 2010 incident, pirates who fired on the USS Ashland were captured, prosecuted in the U.S., and some received life in prison. But the ultimate resolution goes way beyond just one crew. News of a disaster like this travels fast in the tight-knit communities on the Somali coast. The story of what happens when you attack a U.S. warship becomes a cautionary tale, a powerful deterrent whispered in coastal towns. It completely changes the risk calculation. Suddenly, every big, slow ship on the horizon comes with a terrifying new question. Is that a tanker full of oil, or is it a destroyer full of sailors waiting for you to make the last mistake of your life? The real reason pirates learned not to attack these ships wasn't just because they lost a gunfight. It's because the response was so swift, so overwhelming, and so final that it turned a calculated risk into an act of suicide. Encounters like these are a wild reminder of the power and professionalism patrolling the world's oceans. If you found this story fascinating, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into military history and modern warfare. In the end, the attack on the USS Cape St. George and USS Gonzales was born from a perfect storm of desperation. Ignorance and arrogance. The pirates saw a prize, but they completely failed to see the power behind it. Their mistake became a textbook example of what happens when low-tech ambition slams into high-tech military reality. The U.S. Navy's response wasn't just a win in a quick skirmish. It was a message broadcast across the waves. Some ships you just don't attack. And mistaking a warship for a freighter is a lesson that, on the high seas, is often only taught once.